Yes guys, I hope we're all good. Welcome back to the YouTube channel. This is the first time I've ever done something like this. I've always recorded my training, but I've never uploaded it really to YouTube or to social media. But that's all about to change. And today I actually want to run through a physique update, what I'm going to be doing over the next 12 weeks, and also to run through my training split. So we're going to start with my progression over the last 2 years. So for those of you that are new here, back at the end of 2022, I did a photo shoot prep and I got down to around 78 kilos. A year later, having dirty bulked and sort of not really controlled my nutrition or training as such, I'd actually put on a considerable amount of weight. And I believe in the visuals that you'll see on screen now, I was around 94 kilos. So I went from 78 kilo to 94 kilo by the following May, 2023. Officially 2 years later, on this day, these are the before and after visuals. So what I will say is that in these visuals, I'm now 97 kilo. I have considerably more muscle mass. And the one tip, if I could give you, would be to spend more time in a calorie surplus. Now, what did I learn from this? That you should push your weight up very, very slowly and control every single variable when it comes to your training, your nutrition, your sleep, your stress, your recovery. So if I didn't make those mistakes in the first year that I started to push my weight up, then I most definitely wouldn't be where I am today in terms of my own physique development and the next steps I'm about to take. So looking at those visuals, I'm 97 kilo. That is going to be the baseline weight for the next 12 weeks. So I have officially started my summer shred. I'm going to be consuming 3,000 calories to begin with for week 1, 250 grams of protein, 50 grams of fat, and roughly 380 to 390 grams of carbohydrate. And they're going to be spread across 5 meals throughout the day. Now, don't get me wrong, already I'm hungry and it's day 2, but it's expected considering I've spent a long time trying to build muscle and it's definitely paid off. So let's jump into my training split. I'm going to be focusing on a upper lower training split. It's something I've done over the last 10 years. And I always preach this: if it works, don't change it. The only change that I am making is that instead of 2 rotations, so an A and a B rotation, now I'm going to be including a C rotation. So upper A, lower A, rest, upper B, lower B, rest, rest. So I'll be training 4 days out of the 7 across the week. The following week, it will be upper C, lower C, rest, and then we repeat. Upper A, lower A, rest, rest. I'm going to take you through my first upper A training session. To be honest, the gym was packed. I had an intense migraine going into the session. So for those of you that are new here, about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with genetic migraines. I didn't even know that they were a thing, but essentially where it came from was I was experiencing pain through my left eye, and after multiple x-rays and sort of diagnosis, they concluded that I've got a bump on my optic nerve. So the best way that you can describe that is, imagine you've got 2 roads, the right and the left. They should meet in the middle, but my left has got a few bumps and a few curves. So every so often I get headaches. I also get migraines. So this session considering I wanted it to be a very, very good session. It was okay, and we'll run through why right now. So we started off with a plate-loaded flat press. I took it for 2 sets. At peak bulk, which was 100 kilo, I'm now down 3 kilo. I was pressing around 6 plates for 10 to 12 repetitions. I managed to get 6 repetitions here, which I was fairly happy with. And then the back off, I did 5 plates for 9 repetitions. But again, I'm not too worried considering it was the first session and also the first set, having warmed up, and yeah. Moving into a T-bar row. I love this T-bar row. The reason being is it's just very nice. I connected with it very, very well. I've added a blue pad just to increase my range of motion and also a little bit of cushioning around the chest and also the sternum area. Otherwise, it does get a little bit uncomfortable. You need to be using straps for any pulling movements. I cannot stress this enough. Again, at peak bulk, I did around 7 plates for 8 to 10 repetitions. Today, I believe it was 6 plates per side for 6 repetitions. Again, it's moving very, very easily. I am one to train to failure, but when it's at the start of a training program, I do like to leave around 2 to 3 reps in reserve. Of course, that goes against the literature of how to actually build muscle. You shouldn't be leaving as many reps in reserve, but it works for me. Moving on, pin-loaded incline press. So movements that help to increase stability, we're going to generate more force. Therefore, we're going to recruit more contractile units. In particular, I do like this chest piece because it converges at the top. The only downside is that I'm using the stack and sort of the 2.5 pin. When I'm having to load plates onto the handles, my elbow position starts to move off. And that's just because the plates begin to touch my elbows. So towards the end of the set, as I'm starting to fatigue and my hands do get a little bit slippy here, it does become increasingly difficult. So we've got 2 5s either side. The 10 plate is just way too big. I've even tried putting a gym pin in there, but based on the height in which the pin sort of sits, it doesn't fit. Moving on, a close grip pull down. I believe this was the final set, so 10 to 15 repetitions. What I see as the biggest mistake for the majority of people in the gym is the fact that their positioning is off. So we want to keep our head up, our spine in a neutral position, and really we should only be moving our elbows towards our hips. You can see as I set up, I'm driving my quads into the pad. I'm now ready. I drive my elbows down towards my hips, and then I'm controlling that eccentric. Most of the time I see people swing their heads forward just to get an even deeper stretch. But to be honest, based on the range of motion and sort of the leverage of the lats and also the mid back, we don't need to do that, okay? Just drive your elbows towards your hip and then slight pause at the top, a slight pause at the bottom. I've tried using a V grip here. I've used it in the past, but again, it goes against sort of literature and alignment with particular muscles. The wide grip, again, it just reduces the range of motion. So I'm going to be running this close grip V-bar for this training block. And then moved into a dumbbell lateral raise. I like to run 2 variations for a lateral raise. One which requires more stability, so I'm having to brace quite hard here. Then one that requires sort of less stability because the machine provides that. I'm pausing at the top and then slow and controlled on the way down. We do lose tension at the bottom of the repetition, and you might say, hey, you should be doing a cuff lateral raise or even a machine lateral raise. I do go on to use a machine lateral raise, but again, I connect very, very well for this movement. There's no sort of good or bad exercises. In my opinion, it's exercises that you enjoy and also exercises that you connect very, very well with. I did 17.5 kilos for 10 to 15 repetitions. I could probably load it up, but again, I wanted to connect here, and I did have about an hour and 15 in the gym. We then moved on to a seated lateral raise. So those machines that provide greater stability I'm gonna increase my set volume. So I've did 3 sets here. Again, 10 to 15 repetitions. I'm thinking head up. That pad is pressed against my chest and I'm driving my elbows towards 11 or 1 or even my wrists. I actually do use my wrist straps here just because as I start to fatigue, I don't want my sort of forearm flexors and extenders taking over. I have seen some guys balance sort of the handle on top of their wrist. I personally like to strap it up and then I'm not worrying about grip strength as I do start to fatigue towards the end of that set. Final few repetitions. Okay, tricep push down. We're just going to pause it there. A lot of people are against sort of the V-bar or a long bar when it comes to a tricep push down, just because again, with a rope attachment, you can get your wrists past your hips and get that tricep fully short. I like using this, so I'm going to continue to use it. I'm using the stack. I'm also using the 2 pins at the top. I believe I did this for around 10 to 12 repetitions. Big emphasis at pausing at the top, so when the forearm is touching the bicep, and at the bottom. But I'm still trying to get my wrists towards my hips. Sometimes if the load is too heavy, you'll find yourself pushing down out in front of you. I wouldn't necessarily say that's a bad thing, but I like to keep the bar and also the cable as close as I can to my body whilst pausing at both ends of the range. I think by this point I started to get a little bit tired. Moving on, we went into a standing overhead tricep extension. I like to use either a long rope or in particular the bear grips, just because it allows me to bring overhead. Sometimes if you do struggle with mobility, if you are using a bar, again, trying to swing it around, super tricky. You might be able to do it. I most definitely can't based on the mobility in my shoulders. So I'm now in position ready to extend up. I do extend slightly out and then I'm pausing at the bottom of that rep once again. You can slightly turn your elbows in, and I did 3 sets here. I believe the rep range was around 8 to 15, I want to say. But in my previous training block, I was actually running a variation where I was doing it kneeling, but I connect very well with the standing overhead. So I'm going to be running that this training block, and then on B or C rotation, I'll then do it kneeling. Finally, I finished off with a GHR, a glute ham raise abdominal crunch. I believe there is thoracic or even lumbar extension and flexion. So I'm really thinking about driving through the spine. Again, this is a movement I connect very well with. The rope crunch, I don't necessarily connect well with, but I will include it in my split. I did 3 sets here, body weight around 10 repetitions. So again, slow and controlled on the way down. And then 1 to 2 seconds on the way up. I think by this point, I was ready to sort of leave the gym because it was a tough session. And considering I had that migraine throughout the entire session, it was, I would say it was pretty tricky to focus, but any workout is better than no workout at all, or a short workout is better than no workout at all. Final couple of repetitions here. Sweat pouring through my bag. And that is my upper A resistance training session complete. In the next YouTube video, I will be running through my lower A resistance training session. I believe I've got a hip hinge and also a squat pattern in there. So if you enjoyed this type of content, make sure to like and follow for more. See you in the next one.